In today's video, we're going to be taking a look here at our current conditions, and we're going to just dive into the upcoming pattern because there is a big flip in the pattern upcoming that will bring Arctic air persistently into the eastern United States, as well as multiple minor snowfall opportunities here in the eastern half of the nation, which minor, moderate, or major is very interesting this time of year, in my opinion. We're going to focus mostly on the west here on the current conditions because really, when you take a look eastward, there's not a whole lot going on outside of this pocket down here in the southeast, which we will zoom in later on and take a look at, but I want to focus in here on the northwest. We do have an occluded front with a low pressure system in the middle of it, and this is bringing moderate precipitation very close to the coast, but mostly offshore, and then some scattered about showers just to the east of that region for inland regions of Idaho, Montana, or Idaho, Washington, and Oregon, better yet. As we work our way further south here, we can see two more major low pressure systems here. This is bringing pretty broad low pressure for a lot of just the California area. And this is bringing very moderate to heavy rainfall for the Bay Area and take it northward, and also for the LA area as well. We'll zoom in there. But also not to mention snowfall for the Sierra Nevadas and then also those mountainous regions to the north of the bay there. So we're seeing some snowfall up here in the north for California. As we take a look at it, we can see whites and blues popping up. That's going to indicate nearly whiteout conditions. So a lot of these areas down here, and then we see some of these mountainous regions here as well. So we're seeing very heavy snowfall coming down and likely accumulating very quickly. As we work our way southward, we can see some of the southern Sierra Nevadas are also seeing some snowfall in there, heavy at times. And we can see down here for the LA area, we do have some moderate to heavy precipitation in the form of rainfall, of course, happening here for LA. Now, as we work our way eastward, we can see some interesting snowfall taking place here for the northern Rockies and even some of the lower elevation regions nearby the Rockies. But for Nevada up through Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana, we are having some snowfall. Not quite as heavy as the mountainous regions of California, but we are seeing the whites with very isolated blues popping up, and that will be very heavy still, just not quite as heavy as what we saw out west, obviously. Now, as we work our way further eastward, we can see some thunderstorms popping up for Oklahoma and surrounding states there. Definitely interesting to see that, as we do have some low pressure extending all the way eastward from Colorado. Kind of some broad low pressure in here. Could pop up some precipitation at any point for a lot of these different regions, but really interesting to see these isolated and scattered thunderstorms just flaring up this morning. Definitely not very, I don't know how you'd put it, but maybe appropriate for this season. It just seems very odd. We do have some isolated, what looks like showers to me, that could become thunderstorms very quickly here in Nebraska as well. As we work our way northward, there is some lighter showers working across the upper Midwest, but actually it's kind of moving northward and out. So these are going to be lessening in intensity over the course of the day today. For southern Texas, very far southern Texas, we do have these very isolated showers and thunderstorms moving through. Corpus Christi and maybe further areas south are seeing that currently. And then for Florida, we can see there is just some isolated showers and thunderstorms kind of moving across the state. We can tell where our tropical system is here. We can see right here, I think it's, which one is it? Nicole, tropical storm Nicole is going to probably come onshore of Florida and then stay onshore of the United States now from what we've seen, and then cross through right here. But the interesting thing to note, and we'll talk about this, is normally a tropical system, like I'm going to draw a circle of it, but this is where the wind field would be, right? So this is where we would see windiness from this system in a tropical system. But this system in particular has a very, very broad wind field. So we could see something like this as far as like who will see the very windy conditions from this. It is going to be a much, much larger area that is going to see these windy conditions and even some of the storminess from this storm. So we need to talk about Tropical Storm Nicole as well throughout this video. So what we're going to do, since it's going to be very action-packed, is we're going to get right into it. We're going to just move on to the modeled guidance and take a look at that. All right, now here we are taking a look at the upcoming pattern. Now, a couple things to focus on, obviously, is going to be our tropical system out here that we're going to be tracking through the southeastern United States, and then also a lot of this storminess and snowiness heading, well, eastward. So let's just track this over time. As we reach into tomorrow, we can see things are already spreading eastward here with this snowfall. We are going to see a major snowstorm develop here over the upper Midwest, so we'll take a look at that. Our tropical system is over the Bahamas. Over the hours following, we get landfall approximately around maybe 2 a.m. here, Wednesday heading into Thursday. So we see that for the east coast of Florida. And then we have this low developing here over Nebraska, and this is bringing plenty of heavy snowfall to the west of it, and ice and some freezing rain to the north of it. We see this spreads through into South Dakota, and we're seeing, again, the very heavy snowfall. We'll take a look at the snowfall amounts in just a little bit. Meanwhile, our tropical system is crossing the state of Florida. This is going to be by Thursday afternoon. That's going to be the 10th. We have just massive amounts of snowfall falling for the Dakotas, especially here, as there is just very strong low here. A blizzard basically taking place, most likely. Now our tropical system is on the west side of Florida, as you can see. As we continue things on, we get a second landfall here Friday or Thursday night, better yet, in the panhandle of Florida. We still have major snowfall occurring for North Dakota and Minnesota, maybe even South Dakota as well by this point. And we can see a cold front here developing as well on the eastern end, and this is certainly going to be something to watch. This all kind of combines. We get this tropical system plus the front, so we get just very heavy precipitation, a lot of windiness here with this along the eastern seaboard. Certainly something to watch closely here. This is going to bring flooding and windiness for, again, a very wide swath of the eastern United States here. And at the same time, we see that move out, and then we see the cold air moving in. So we see something like this with the cold air as it's pushing south and pushing eastward here. We also see warm air pushing northward here for the west, which is just reinforcing this cold here in the east. It's called a positive PNA, and this forces the cold air into the east. We've talked about this before. I'm not going to dive into it too much. Now, over time, we see the cold continue here for the eastern United States, but right around Sunday the 13th, this is something I want to watch. We see this low develop here, and then look, it heads right up the coast, right along the cold, and threatens. It does threaten to be a snowstorm almost. We do get a little bit of snowfall here for coastal New England. It's there with the cold, and we see Maine get quite a bit of snowfall, but it's not a huge hit here. Take it with a grain of salt, but this could turn into more. It could turn into less. It could just be a very, very minor snowfall event. Only time will be able to tell. But we get multiple of these opportunities with this colder air. The cold air gets reinforced here by the time we're taking a look at approximately Thursday afternoon time frame, and we see plenty of storminess moving right along this cold air mass here. As you can see, we see this moving right up the coast here through the southeast, and we have lots of cold air bottled up for a lot of the eastern United States here. So we do see this turn into some snowfall for New Hampshire and Maine, which is pretty realistic if you ask me for this time of year. We do get a clipper system, a couple of these systems that want to bring snowfall to this pocket. Usually these bring more minor snowfall, and they move just along like this. Very, very minor, but quick moving as well. And we see a lot of the colder air stays in the eastern United States through most of the model run. We do have something like this set up by this point. So it's not a huge trough in the east, but there still is a trough in the east. And that's kind of the point here that I want to push home. Now, for total precipitation through the next 15 days, if you're anywhere in the whites, we're expecting practically no precipitation. Your grays will be 1/10 of an inch or less. Your greens 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Your blues 1/2 an inch to an inch. Your yellows 1 inch to 2 inches. Reds 2 to 5 inches. And then your browns 5 to 10 inches of precipitation. Blues within the browns being 10 to 15 inches of precipitation, and then there's even magentas in there, and that's going to be 15 to 20 inches plus. And we see some of that offshore of the southeast, and some of that there for Washington State, that is. Now, for total snowfall here, in the grays, we're expecting a dusting, if anything. Your blues will be 2 to 6 inches of snowfall, purple 6 to 10, pinks 10 to 20, and then your pastel blues 20 to 30, and then pastel pinks 30 to 48 inches plus. We can see Maine and a lot of the interior northeast seeing some of that snowfall. That's some of the more surprising snowfall that we see here. Our blizzard brings well over 20 inches of snowfall here for North Dakota, potentially even Minnesota and South Dakota as well. 20 to 30, again, in those blue pastels. And we see some of the purple pastels, pink pastels showing up, indicating 40 inches plus potentially. So a whole lot of snowfall expected there. Now for the temperature pattern, let's just take a look at it here. We're warm in the east, so this is a negative PNA here. Colder temperatures driving the warm air up into the eastern half of the nation here. As time moves on, we get our first kind of cold blast here Sunday into Monday, 13th to 14th here for the eastern United States, and this really sets in. We get cold from coast to coast, which is a very rare occurrence, but the National Weather Service has indicated that this will be the case, the Climate Prediction Center, and all signs are pointing towards this being very legit here, cold from coast to coast, which again, not common. Oddly enough, warm air from coast to coast is a lot more common than cold air from coast to coast. Things get a little bit more warm, but it's still cold in the east, but it's just a little bit more warm than it was. But again, just like the time before, we see another Arctic blast that's more major able to move its way in. Now, finally, by this point, this will be Monday into Sunday. That'll be the 19th to the 20th. We do get some warmer air out west, which is going to help encourage the colder air in the east. So we see this taking place. Positive PNA, again, forces the cold air around that warm air mass into the eastern United States. We see things kind of continue that way. We have more neutral temperatures here in the east here by about Thursday the 24th, so take this with a grain of salt. But definitely still a positive PNA taking place out west, so wouldn't surprise me one bit if we see more cold air moving into the east after this point. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. Keep up to date with us. Be sure to subscribe because we're going to be taking a look at the pattern every single day. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.